Welcome back to On the Rise, as Jesse Marsch has announced a very exciting squad for the Concacaf Nations League finals. And there's many takeaways and things to know about this squad, and we'll be breaking down my top 5 things to know about this CanMNT squad. And we're going to waste no time and jump straight into number 1, as I truly believe it has to be experience. When you look at this team, there's a lot of experience that Jesse Marsch has called up in familiarity from previous players, especially in past camps. And yes, when I say experience, I don't mean older players like a Junior Hoylett. When I say experience, I mean particularly players who fit Jesse Marsch's system, players who have been there in camps before and know what Jesse Marsch wants, as well players who have deserved and grafted in training on a daily basis at a camp to prove to Jesse Marsch they deserve to be there at a major tournament for the Canadian national team. And you can truly see that the experience and the familiarity in 3 different call-ups. In Tom McGill, Mathieu Choinière, and Tani Oluwase. For so many different reasons, I believe the experience and familiarity shows in 3 different call-ups right there. Tom McGill especially the most, because when you're looking at the goalkeeper, and especially the number 3 goalkeeper in the squad, you could have called up James Pantemis, who is having a great start to the season for Portland Timbers. You could have called up Jonathan Sirois of CF Montreal, or Tom McGill, a young Canadian goalkeeper in League 2 in England. And right now, Tom McGill was the only one of those 3 who has quite often been in Jesse Marsch camps. And Tom McGill got the call up. Some people wanted Pantemis, some people wanted Sirois, but he is gone with the younger Canadian goalkeeper in Tom McGill, who has previously been there in his camps, who has proved himself in training and knows what he wants. Yes, he's not going to be challenging for the number 1 spot, but it just shows he's going with familiarity. As well as when you go to the midfield with Mathieu Choinière, people might have been wanting Nathan Saliba. Yes, Saliba has been in camps before, but Mathieu Choinière has played a big role in some Jesse Marsch camps. He's played a big role in some games for Jesse Marsch, and he's proved that. And he's proved why he deserved a call-up, even if he's not in form for Grasshopper out in European football. As well as up front, Tani Oluwase. Tani Oluwase hasn't been in great form for Minnesota United. He hasn't been doing great for the Canadian men's national team, but he suits Jesse Marsch's system to an absolute T, and it makes a lot of sense to call up someone like Tani Oluwase for a Jesse Marsch style of play. So I can completely understand why he'd go with those 3 players. And when you look at those 3 call-ups in particular, yes, you don't see age, but you see a lot of familiarity and experience at Jesse Marsch camps who know his system. And Jesse Marsch knows what he's going to get from those players. And they'll probably get the best in training out of others around them. And they're probably players who set the standard in training, I truly believe as well. So they're great call-ups and truly show why experience and familiarity is the number 1 thing to know about this Jesse Marsch squad. But number 2 is one of the only negatives I think about this team, and it's the lack of wingers. I think that's something to really focus on and to see in the squad. When you look at this Jesse Marsch squad that he's called up, there's a lot of not problems per se, but things to look at with the wingers. Yes, we only have 3 out-and-out wingers on this team, and Jacob Schaffelberg, Ali Ahmed, and Tajon Buchanan. But when you look at those wingers, 3 wingers in a 4-4-2, you need those wingers. You're using 2 of them. And also when you look at those wingers right now in the squad, Tajon Buchanan's picking up substitute, sometimes garbage minutes for Villarreal in La Liga. A side doing great, but he's not getting many minutes. When you look at Jacob Schaffelberg, hasn't played this season, lack of minutes, coming back from an injury, how much time can Jesse Marsch get out of them? As well as when you look at Ali Ahmed. He's doing terrific for Vancouver Whitecaps, didn't start this season, but he's been utilized very well by Sorensen for Vancouver Whitecaps. A lack of wingers. There's only 3 wingers in this squad. Yes, you can use Nico Seeger at right mid. Yes, you can use Richie Larea up the pitch at right mid as well. You have other options. But I don't see loads of out-and-out wingers on this team, which does scare me in a 4-4-2, and especially with the lack of minutes and playtime our wingers have had this season. But when I look at the number 3 thing to know, and it's the most exciting, especially for casuals or just Canadian fans in general, it's new dual nationals, particularly 2 important dual nationals, and it's Promise David and Daniel Jeppesen. 2 dual nationals who I think are going to have a great future with the Canadian national team and could have a big part to play at the Concacaf Nations League. I don't think Daniel Jeppesen will particularly, but I think Promise David could have a major say in the Concacaf Nations League. When you look at Promise David and Daniel Jebison, they're two exciting dual nationals. They're not dual nationals who are going to be fringe players. They're dual nationals who are going to be ready to prove a point and to jump straight into the starting lineup with the chance. And they're younger dual nationals. Promise David's 23, Daniel Jebison's 21. They add extra competition and just strength into this front line. Especially playing a 4-4-2, you need those number 9s. When you have two strikers, you need two ready in the wing. You need someone proving themselves in training. You need that younger potential. Daniel Jebison brings that. There are also two different strikers that we don't have those play styles in our front line so far. Promise David is a strong, physical number 9 who has the ability to run in behind as well, which is incredible for a bigger player, but also extremely clinical, is a great goal scorer. As well as when you look at Daniel Jebison, a player with loads of potential, playing in the Premier League, scored his first Premier goal at 17 years old, and has gone up and down since, having major injuries. But when you look at what Daniel Jebison has, he's a poacher, he's quick in behind, he's a very fast striker, and he's very exciting to see with an abundance of potential. When you look at that front line, they add a lot to it, and stuff that we haven't seen so far from other Canadian strikers, which is why it's very exciting, but also just new dual nationals get fans off their seats. But when you look at the number 4 thing to know, in my opinion, we now have a clear number 1 goalkeeper. And you truly have to look at Dayne St. Clair now. Dayne St. Clair looks like he's the out-and-out number 1, especially since last year, and since he's gotten his chance with Minnesota even more and continued to prove himself under Jesse Marsch and getting more starts. And now that Maxime Crépeau has taken that number 2 role at more Portland Timbers, especially since being injured, James Pantom has stepped in. It looks like he suits the role of the manager more at Portland Timbers. It's looking like Dayne St. Clair is that number 1 spot locked down, but it's always in competition. Jesse Marsch has been very clear that number 1 role is up for grabs. But I really do think this camp, Dayne St. Clair is the number 1. He's proved himself in Minnesota United, whether that was in the playoffs last season where he was truly lights out, whether that was with Canada as well. Dayne St. Clair at 27, being 3 years younger than Max Crépeau, he has proved himself on multiple occasions. I think we can now say Dayne St. Clair is moving into the clear number 1, but more so, especially at this camp, he has to be the clear number 1, and I think he will make some major saves and help Canada move towards a major trophy this window. But moving on to my number 5 thing to know, the last thing before we wrap up, guys, and make sure to drop a like and let me know your thoughts and comments on the video as well. But number 5 will be strength and depth. Like Jesse Marsch said, and like I truly believe, this is the best Canadian squad we have ever witnessed. This is the biggest and most exciting Canadian squad we have ever witnessed, not just at the top, but depth-wise as well. The players he's had to leave behind: Junior Hoylett, Jaden Nelson, the likes of Nathan Saliba, goalkeeper plethora. It is very exciting, this team. Theo Bair, Jason Russell-Rowe. You can make a whole nother 11 almost off of players he's left behind. That is how much this team has grown in strength and depth. But when you just look at the depth of this team right now for Canada that got called up, you have players like a Joel Waterman, who's a backup, who can give you a consistent performance every time he's called up. Jamie Knight-Labelle, a 20-year-old young depth center back. You have the likes of Nico Seeger, a young Canadian dual national who was brought in by Jesse Marsch, who could potentially start for Canada. You have multiple players playing throughout Europe. You have quality up front. When you have 5 strikers now, and you're leaving players who are playing in Liga back home in Theo Bair, who's starting consistently now for AJ Auxerre, when you have the likes of Jason Russell-Rowe left behind, this is the best Canadian squad, and the strength and depth it has now. When Jesse Marsch looks at that bench, I don't think he's second-guessing bringing a second player on or a certain player on. Every single player he looks to on that bench, he's like, I know what I'm going to get from you, and I trust you. And when he's talking about in press conferences that the players he's leaving behind, he's had to really have a tough decision on. It just shows the strength of this team. And it's going to be very exciting to see the depth. And now when Canada brings players off the bench, we don't have to be looking at a quality drop. This is players who are going to come on and make an immediate impact. If Jacob Schaffelberg doesn't have the ability to start off the get-go, he's going to make a true impact off the bench. We know what Jacob Schaffelberg has, and he will bring that level. When you look at that front five of strikers we have off the bench, or in general, Jonathan David, Kyle Larin, Taniel Loase, Promise David, and Daniel Jebison. One of them is in the MLS, and one of them is done well in the MLS, and Taniel Loase. And when you see who's going to start, is it going to be Larin? Is it going to be David? Is it going to be Promise David? When you look at the three options off the bench, we know there's goals on that bench. We know there's midfield strength on that bench. We know there's defensive solidity on that bench. And this team is strong. Every single position you look now. Yes, number 3 and 4 in the depth chart in certain areas might be a bit interesting. But right now, when you look at certain positions, every place has strength and depth, and I truly believe that. But guys, those are my 5 things to know about this Canadian side, or my more interesting 5 things to know. There's lots to know from this squad, but I think those are the most important things to know about this Jesse Marsch team. Love to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know down below in the comments. Make sure to smash that like button. There's going to be so much content hopefully coming around this Concacaf Nations League, whether it's previews, squad breakdowns, news. I'll be here for every single bit of it, guys. Your place for the Canadian men's national team news. Drop a like, hit that sub button, guys. Let's continue to move to 600 subscribers, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.